What's up, YouTube? This is Too Raw for TV. So yesterday was Game 3 of the first round series between the Boston Celtics, who are the defending Eastern Conference champions, versus the Atlanta Hawks, who a couple of years ago made a surprising run all the way to the Eastern Conference Finals. Before this series started, I said this about Boston. If we saw anything like last year's Boston Celtics team this playoffs, they would sweep Atlanta 4-0. But if we saw, unfortunately, the Boston Celtic team that we saw for stretches during this year, where they sort of coasted, played down to level their competition, did not show the same stifling team defense, the communication, the unit that they were during last year's playoffs. If they show those same bad habits, then this series could go 6 games. If it goes 7 games, that's a disaster for the Celtics. We saw a little bit of that last night. They did not like the same team, and in my opinion, it's not going to be mentioned much. Jason Tatum got exposed a little bit on defense. Atlanta won this game by the final score of 130 to 122. They cut in half the Celtics series lead to 2-1. Trae Young, who I've been very hard on, obviously, because of his terrible level of play, going all the way back to last year's playoffs, finally broke free and had a really good game. He had 32 points. I believe he had, give me 1 second. I believe he had 32 points. I think he had 7 assists. Let me look at these numbers. He had 32 points, 6 rebounds, 9 assists, actually. He shot from the field. All right. He shot 12 of 22 from the field, so it's the first time he shot with 50%. Maybe going all the way back to the 2021 playoffs. 2 of 6 from three-point range, but he turned it around in the second half. 6 of 6 from the charity stripe. He did have 4 turnovers, but he had 9 assists and 6 rebounds. And he was big down the stretch of the game. He was hitting some big floaters, some key threes, some key jump shots, especially when Boston was trying to inch back into the game. Boston's defense gave up 74 points in the first half. That's a franchise playoff record for the Atlanta Hawks in a half, 74 points. Now, Boston did trim that down to 56 second half points for the Atlanta Hawks, but still was more than enough for them to secure the victory. John Collins had 8 points and 5 rebounds, but at this point, John Collins' role is different than what it was a couple of years ago. He's more or less now a corner spot-up three-point shooter. DeJounte Murray, 25 points, 11 of 21 shooting from the floor. He hit some big shots down the stretch, too, for the Atlanta Hawks. Clint Capella, a double-double, 10 points, 11 rebounds. And as far as guys on the bench, Sadiq Bey, who I believe used to play for the Detroit Pistons, 15 points and 8 rebounds. Bogdan Bogdanovic had 15 points, 3 of 4 from three-point range. And Jalen Johnson had 10 points for the Atlanta Hawks. For the Boston Celtics, Tatum had 29 points, but only shot 9 of 22 from the floor. Marcus Smart, 24 points. He had some big shots down the stretch to get Boston back in the game. You know, and whenever Marcus Smart has a good offensive game, usually it's an indicator that it'll be a good night for Boston. Jaylen Brown, 15 points, only 15 shot attempts. So, just checking out some stuff. Grant Williams, 14 points. Um, Robert Williams III, 4 points, 5 rebounds, one steal. Malcolm Brogdon, 17 points and 5 assists. Um, the problem was, like I said in this game, I think Boston came into Atlanta not totally prepared, thinking that this series is over. Atlanta, they weren't able to match Atlanta's energy. And even though Boston hit, I believe, what was it, 9 threes in the first quarter? 9 threes. That's on pace to hit 36 threes. Even though they hit 9 threes in the first quarter, they only led by 4. And that was a bad omen right there. And that was partially because Boston sometimes have these stinkers where they don't play. They were playing to the level of their competition. They get up for the good teams, but they don't have the discipline to. And this is what caused Boston to go from the first seed for much of the season, and that's how one of the reasons why they coughed up the first seed was their lack of consistency down the stretch. You know, losing to the Houston Rockets or maybe even the Pistons, and these poor teams. I still got Atlanta losing this series. I'm gonna go with 4-1 right now. I think Boston's gonna take care of business in Game 4. If not, then we have a series, and then Boston really is putting themselves in a stupid situation. You know what I mean? Just take care of business right now. Knock these guys out now in Game 4. Come back and win this thing. Because if they end up even in this series, the pressure's going to be on Boston to win Game 5. Atlanta could come in there with no pressure. And sometimes with a team like Atlanta, Trae Young is a streaky guy. Trae Young can have a game where he goes literally 0 for 7 from downtown. But he could also have a game where he can go 9 of 15 from downtown. And then you're really in trouble when he has one of those rare nights where he scores 45, 50 plus points. So anyway, and then you have DeJounte Murray, a guy that can go off. So Boston needs to take care of Game 4. I know this sounds strange, but to me, Game 4 is a must-win for Boston. I know that sounds weird, but to me, Game 4 is a must-win for Boston. Just knock these guys out now. Knock them out so you can come home and just take care of them. Because if these guys get any confidence, I know. I'm a Bucks fan. I've seen these guys. I've seen them when they played Philly. When there's no pressure on them, no one's expecting them to do anything, and the pressure's on the other team to all of a sudden win, pressure busts pipes, and that can show up in the playoffs. And to me, also, Joe Mazzulla is a good coach, but he's not the coach that Ime Udoka had, with this team. So anyway, tell me what you guys think.